Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to a time where I have the opportunity to share with you. If you have been watching the previous YouTubes from January and February, we've been talking about change and transformation, and we took a journey of transformation. But even if you didn't watch that, today we're going to talk about what do we do when something significant has happened in our life. We've purposely created a change, or we sought a change for ourselves. How do we live into that? How do we keep that going for ourselves? I often take people on journeys, a lot to Peru. And there are significant changes in that time when we're there. We go to a lot of the sacred sites and use the energy of those places, as well as the teachings that myself and my dear brother from Peru share with people. But the key is when we come home, and that whatever we experience, whatever shifted something inside of us, that we can keep that going for the rest of our lives. Now, in truth, change and transformation is happening all the time. What we want to do is realize that we're part of that. We are creating the transformation for ourselves. So we get to have an awareness about how's it going? How is the garden of my life doing? Do I like the garden? Are there things that I need to shift and transplant somewhere else? Are there weeds that I need to pull? Has it gotten a bit overgrown because I've forgotten to tend to it? Am I a bit dry inside myself because I've forgotten to water myself? So self-care. So these are ways to pay attention to your transformation. A dear friend of mine, we went on a journey together, and we were on a ship. And she told me afterwards that that experience was very important because she could remember the feeling, the sensation inside of her, of that ship moving her. She felt like she was gently being rocked and cradled and held. And this dear friend had a difficult journey and transformation in the year after that. And she described how she would go in her mind's eye to that feeling and sensation, especially in the times of great stress, to feeling held and rocked and supported, even when in her outside world, she didn't feel that that was happening. But in her inside, she could create that. So she was integrating the transformation that happened in the actual experience of being on the ship. But then she was training her thoughts, her mind, and her body sensations, how to return to that. So that's the sharing and the teaching that I want to offer you today. How important it is that we stay conscious, stay aware, because we're putting new messages into our own system. You will all agree that life is not always easy. But maybe everything in life is also the opportunity that leads to the transformation. I'm going to give another analogy is in our change, it's like a baby being born. And for anyone who's gone through childbirth or witnessed childbirth, you'll see that that's not an easy change that's happening. The woman, and not sure about the baby, but I would assume so, it's great turmoil. There can be a lot of pain associated with it. But there's something beautiful on the other side of when that baby comes forth. And then when that baby comes forth, there's yet more to do. How do we cradle this little being? How do we care for this little being? How do we nurture them? Imagine we are the baby right now, and we're going through the change, and now we've been born. We've gone through that great challenge through the birth canal. first of all, let yourself take in that you made it through. You made it through all the turmoil, all the challenges, all the pain. You want to appreciate what you've done. You step back and kind of go, wow, I wasn't sure I could make it through, and I did. And don't spare details here. Remember some of those details so you're not minimizing what you have done to get to where you are right now. And that is something that you'll continue to do, not just now, but just as you go through life. Take time to review, to go back and see what you had to do to get to where you are now. And then as you take that time, then you can move on to and say, so what now? How do I incorporate the change that I have been part of creating? Remember, and maybe have something symbolic to remember about what your dream is, what your vision or goal is. I'm going to use what we've used in the earlier couple of videos in the meditation and in the conversation, is what's the feeling or sensation you want to create inside yourself. Then have something symbolic of that. So for example, if you want to feel like you're moving through life with ease and grace, remembering that life outside of us is not always ease and grace, but we can create that in here. Maybe a symbol you pick is someone floating on water. And that reminds you to float through, just like water. Sometimes it's gentle, and sometimes there'll be more of a rush or a movement, sometimes a big wave. And the idea is, okay, I want an image of floating to help me remember to have this sensation of ease and grace. So now that I have that around me all the time, it's entering into my subconscious, into my energy field, into my neurotransmitters, into my heart, into my soul. These reminders keep us on the path. Now, every once in a while, we detour. And we'll feel that because it doesn't, our mind goes in a different direction, our body feels a different sensation that is not comfortable. Notice that. Do not go into criticism if you can help it. Just kind of go, oh, I'm glad I've noticed I've taken a detour. I'm off on a different path. Once we notice, then we can do some change. Now, let's say we didn't notice for whatever reason. And then somewhere we kind of go, wow, I'm in a different place. Maybe also use that as, is there a gift? Is there an opportunity that shows up in that experience? Sometimes maybe if we were traveling somewhere and we meant to go somewhere, but we got detoured and we didn't know it. We took a wrong road, so to say, and not that I think it's wrong. Look around and what's the experience there? Maybe you're seeing things you would have never seen. So if we take a detour with ourselves, maybe it's an opportunity to notice something else that needed to shift or be appreciated. So we always bring it back inside of ourselves to do that transformation. I am going to remind you again and go back and appreciate. Now, we are going to hit some of the beliefs and patterns that we have. I'm going to share with you an experience that I had. I had to fly for a short time into South America to do an offering, a sharing with a large group of people. And I had everything arranged. I had to arrive in the country and then take a domestic flight. And when I got there, I had found out that their high-tech system had canceled my domestic flight because it showed me as a no-show as I was 2 minutes late booking into the kiosk. What was interesting is I noticed my head went to some old patterns. Should I not be here? What did I do wrong? You all know that. I'm sure you've all had that experience. Now, as I moved forward, I ended up buying another plane ticket, and I had to sit in a lovely new airport for 10 hours. And it gave me 10 hours to work with my mind and stop it from going down a road of an old pattern where it wanted to be critical. It wanted to question everything, and question it actually, quite frankly, in a negative way. So I had this training time to say, no, we're going to explore the new airport. I found a beautiful empanada, a beautiful lemonade to drink, and I could sit and just be. I breathed. In the book that I have, Becoming Your Brilliant Divine, there's an exercise in there called the breath of life. That's what I was doing because I was moving myself away from this heavier thinking that I was having. Now, go forward. I did arrive to the place there where I was doing my sharing. I got the opportunity to do an amazing sharing. And then I heard from people that many people had canceled flights, delayed flights, etc. And there were about 100 people coming from all areas, all countries around the world. And they started telling me that many of them ended up sitting in the bus for over 5 hours at the arrival point. Then I realized how lucky was I. I didn't have to sit in a bus. I got to sit in this beautiful new airport where I had access to beautiful food and shops, and I could walk around. So it's so interesting how our thoughts and our minds want to create stories that we don't even have information on. So I had to go back and correct even the whole story that I had this happen to me and it was challenging. I went, oh no, it wasn't challenging. I had the really good end of the deal. And gave myself new information. I want you to think of a time where maybe you have created a story around yourself and a belief system, and it ended up not being true. That's what we're releasing. Now, how do we release? So if you were to pick up either of the books that I wrote, you would see that there is a number of experiences in it where a lot of our work is about shifting these patterns, these thoughts, our feelings about ourselves out of our system and refocusing ourselves. So sometimes I call it weeding your garden, taking out the weeds. So we become aware of it and we pluck it out. Sometimes we can have a little fire, a little candle, and we imagine putting it in, or we write it on a piece of paper and we put it in. Another one that you can do, and it's an older one, is we can have our worries and our thoughts. Write them out on a piece of paper. Have a beautiful little box. Put them in there as though to say, I'm going to keep them safe. And my worries are over to the side so I can focus on what I'm shifting and changing right now. Now, if somewhere down the road, you go, oh yeah, all the worries I wrote. You can choose to go back and collect them and bring them back inside yourself. Or you can go, wow, I'm different now. I don't think I need to have that worry. And then again, you let that worry go, maybe by burning it or putting it in some water, in a river, in a moving water, so it moves away from you. So you see, there's many gentle things that we can do. You can imagine brushing yourself off or shaking it off. There's a Qigong move called a shaking move. And it's where you take that and you just shake off all of this heaviness that you can feel. And then you take a deep breath and you focus on what you want, what you're creating. Now you hear that I'm saying that it's more a sensation and a feeling I want. I'm not talking about a new job, a new house, a new partner, all of those things. But if I am feeling that sensation that I want, maybe this ease and flow or this peace, that may include having a new job. It may include something different. So let's say I go to work and I find out I've been laid off. My head is going to go, oh my gosh, I've been laid off. But what if you were imagining that you want peace and ease, and your job was something that wasn't offering that to you? It created a lot of stress for you that you even took into your personal life and your home life. Losing your job, you actually were a part of that transformation. So it gives you maybe the opportunity to step back and be thankful that you don't have something in your life that was creating the disruption. Remember, our mind will want to create a heavy story from it, but maybe it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story of great change and transformation. I want you to take a moment and go inside of yourself and think about something that has happened in the last week that was challenging you. Now I want you to just imagine centering yourself with your breath, that breath of life, taking in some deep breaths. And your intent is, I want to be able to experience that challenge as an opportunity. How has it been something that supports me or guides me or teaches me? So it's a very purposeful, it's very intentional what you're doing right now, is you're transforming it. And you might find that that challenging experience allowed you to learn more about yourself, maybe your patterns, maybe about things that made you uncomfortable, so that in future you can do them different. Then we go back into appreciating. We appreciate the challenges, the things that are heavy, the things that are light. Now, one other thing I do want to share with you before we finish today is sometimes our thoughts and our minds can be attached to what we think transformation looks like. We create the images. But remember, I've been sharing with you, I want you to create the sensation and the feeling. How it turns out, we leave to something much larger than ourselves, because what if it could be better than what we could imagine? And then we pay attention to the present moment, to ourselves, what we're feeling, what's happening in our environment around us, things that catch our attention, or maybe things that we veer away from and we don't want to pay attention to. Because it's not always the big ahas, the big moments that are signals of our transformation. It could be something very small. It could be a chance meeting that I had with someone as I was going to my local convenience store. And I don't know their name, but they stood out because of something they said or did, and it shifted me. So we're also wanting to be present so that we notice what's shifting inside of us. So it's those little moments that are sometimes the biggest aha moments. And now use thinking back to the last week, anything that was a challenge. Is there anything that has happened since then? That could be little moments that shifted you, even just the slightest bit. And as the slightest bit, it changes your direction, changes your focus, changes your thinking and your sensation. So I'm going to leave you with these, and I hope you go and experience. And I would love it if at some time you'd be willing to send an email or some little notice about what you have found as you try doing this. It is always great to be able to share your experiences and your stories, because those stories help others. Have an amazing, beautiful experience of the ongoing transformation of your beautiful soul. Bye-bye.